right, we're continuing with our big idea. Describing shapes and objects can help me to understand the world and solve problems. Our concept today is reflections or flips. When a shape is reflected in a mirror, we see a reflection image. The line segment that joins a point to its image is perpendicular to the line of reflection. Now, the line of reflection is always right in the middle between the two shapes, and it is a equal distance from each shape and at the same point from that line. So from that reflect line, the corners of that shape should be perpendicular, linking to our geometry unit. Noticing that all of our corners are equal distances. So for example, this is across the middle of one and another half. Over here we have a half and another one. So they are the same distance from the reflect line. Same here, we can count the number of squares. 1, 2, 3, 4 across. And it would be the same over here from our reflect line halfway. 1, 2, 3, and 4 across to that corner. So all of our points are the same distance from the line of reflection. The line of reflection is always the midpoint between those two shapes. Depending on how our shapes are placed, it might be across the middle of a square, cutting that square in half, but it could also be running straight up and down or straight sideways, depending on how your shapes are placed on your grid. The shape and its reflection image have opposite orientations. They face opposite ways. Because it is a flip, it's facing the opposite direction. So this corner is this corner over here, and it's in the opposite direction. Remember, this is sometimes also called a flip, because what we've really done is we've taken this shape and we have flipped it over. A nice way to do this is to trace the shape and the flip line and actually flip that page over, matching up your tracing paper flip line with this flip line to see where that shape should be. And then carefully, lifting each corner and plotting each point. There will be a video about that in a moment. All right, we have to describe our reflections. So we'll do the first one together, and then you'll practice with the rest. When we describe a reflection, we have to describe the direction in which it was flipped. If it was flipped to the right, if it was flipped to the left, if it was flipped up or down, and how far it is from the reflect line. Now, it's not clear here which are the images and which are the originals, so I'm going to put I's and O's. Assume that is the original, image, original, image, original, image, original, image, and original, and image. So now you have an idea. All right, to start with, we have this shape as our original. We can see that it is flipped to the left, and it is one square away from the flip line. Okay, so we can see that it's only one square away from the flip line. It's flipped to the right. Press pause and try the remainder of those and describe those reflections. And in fact, tell me which of them actually are reflections, because some of them actually aren't. So do look carefully. All right, let's take a look and see whether or not these are reflections, and if they are, how they have been reflected. This one is in fact not a reflection, because as you can see, they are facing the same direction. And what do we know about shapes if they're facing the same direction? They are probably a translation or a slide, and this is not a reflection. C is in fact a reflection. They are facing opposite directions. Its reflect line is directly on the shape, and if we said this was our original, it has been reflected to the right, directly on our flip line. Here, let's take a look at this set. And again, we can see that they are facing exactly the same direction. They are not opposite in direction. So they are a translation or a slide, not a reflection, not a flip. Taking a look at this one, sometimes a diagonal line can be tricky. This is one where it might be a really good idea to use that tissue paper. This is in fact a reflection. It has been reflected diagonally across the flip line. If this is our original, this is our image. It has been reflected down, and it is 1/2 a square, I guess, from our reflect line at its nearest corner. Lastly, yes, this is also a reflection. They are facing opposite directions. If this is my original, it has been flipped up, and it is 1 space away from the reflect line. All right, at this point, you're going to practice reflecting. You are going to reflect this shape over this diagonal line. And again, you're going to copy this onto your grid paper. So making sure that you are labeling from up to 12 and up to 8 on the lines. To place this shape, this corner is 2 over and 4 up, 3 over and 4 up makes your first line, and then we have 3 blocks up and 1 block over in the middle, and then back down. And where you see our reflect line, you can see that it is 1/2 a square away from this top corner here. So make sure you draw your shape correctly. Try using tissue paper. It's a great strategy to try tracing the shape, tracing the reflect line, flipping it over, and matching up that reflect line. Go ahead and give it a try now. All right, and at this point we're going to watch a quick video of the process using tissue paper. All right, now we're going to move on to our reflection. We are going to reflect octagon B over the diagonal line. So first we have to draw in octagon B. And I can see my first corner is 1 over and 5 up, and 1 over and 6 up. And from there, actually, I can draw my shape quite well because I can see that it's 3 on the side here with 2 across the middle here. So this is B. Now for my reflect line, I notice that my reflect line is cutting this particular square in half. It's right off the corner of this one, and it's cutting it in half, and I notice that it's going through all of these squares at a diagonal. So I'm going to use my ruler to draw in my reflect line, making sure that I'm cutting each of these boxes in half diagonally. Now I'm going to use tissue paper to do this reflection. Sometimes we can visualize it. We can use a Mira, but tissue paper works quite nicely, and a Mira isn't always available, and visualizing doesn't always work very well. So when you place your tissue paper on, you're actually going to trace your shape. Trace it as well as you can with nice straight lines if possible. And you also need to trace your reflect line. Best if you go from beginning to end on your reflect line, so you have that as a point of reference. Now I'm going to do exactly what I said. I'm going to flip or reflect my shape. I'm going to line it up on my reflect line, and now I have this distance of this reflect line to help me determine that I've placed it correctly. As well, I can see that from this corner it should be 1/2 a square away, so from this corner it should be 1/2 a square away. And now I just lift my tissue paper and I put my shape onto the paper where I saw it. That corner was right there. I'm going to place my tissue paper back down just to confirm. Yep, that corner was perfect. Now I know my shape is 3 long, 1 up, 1 over, and then there's that square on top and the square on the side. So this is my reflected image. To confirm that I've placed all of my spots correctly, I could see that yes, this is a 1/2 a square away from the reflect line. This corner should be 2 complete squares diagonally across from the flip line, and it is the same over here. So my shapes are in the correct position. All right, now you're on to your concept practice. Math Makes Sense, page 304, 305, numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you are practicing describing and drawing reflections or flips. If you have questions at all along the way, please make sure you ask.